Hi everyone, you are watching Homeschool Autism Life. Thank you for coming. This story that we're going to be talking about crosses our autism story and homeschool. And I'm probably going to end up doing this in two videos and having them both uploaded on the same week, just because I don't want you to be left with half the story and wait a week, because it's an important one. We're talking about facilitated communication, and it is super controversial, but it's, for us, it's a huge part of both of these stories, and therefore I need to cover it. If you know what facilitated communication is, please bear with me, and I will explain why I think it has even a little bit of merit. If you don't, stick with me and I will explain why it is controversial down the road. So at the beginning, or at one of the videos, I had mentioned that Darrion liked to do the drawings of the word world, pumpkin, pickle, that sort of thing. And he was doing color or flowers and writing numbers and then counting them out. And he did that by himself, no facilitated communication whatsoever. It was not something he did not want me anywhere near. I was not helping. I videotaped it, so I have it, but he did it himself. And that's important because of what happens later. And so he did that for about a year and a half, from about 4-ish to about 6-ish. And we did this thing where we're like, oh, well, it coincided with him going to school. And so we were like, okay, well, that probably is happening for a reason, because he's not a big guy into crafts and whatever, and he was having to do that at school. Anyway, but he was still doing some amazing things. So I mentioned that he likes to play Halo and that he watches videos, and a lot of his stims or isms happen because of technology. And when I say he does that, he doesn't do it the same way you or I or a typical child would. He likes walking off cliffs or driving off of cliffs or going down waterfalls and watching videos of recreations of the Titanic. All of these things have to do with dropping water, dropping dirt. He has a huge fascination with gravity. So with the shows that he likes watching, he would watch the clips, 10, 30-second clips over and over and over again. He'll fly through dozens of them and watch them over and over and over again. And I'll explain how we know this later, but when asked about it, he actually said that it's the same every single time, and he takes great comfort from the fact that he knows what's going to happen every single time he clicks on those, excuse me. So one of those times was when he was going from preschool to kindergarten. We had to go to a different building and go a different way. And he was not having any of it, because autism and routines. They like their routines, and when they get buggered up, he's like, oh, why? So one of the videos that he liked watching, or the clips, was of a Lego character who's trying to get everyone's attention, his friend's attention, because the bad guy has just come in and nobody's paying attention because they're arguing over here. And eventually he gets so sick and tired of it, he just goes, please acknowledge me, to point to the bad guy. And on this particular day, when we're walking, probably weeks after he had left this clip alone, we were walking, and he's like, Mommy, this way, and I'm like, no, buddy, we're gonna go to a different class, it's gonna be awesome, come, it'll be great. And he was like, no, and eventually he plants his ground. He goes, please acknowledge me. And I'm like, oh, bright spot, because he used acknowledge for a 6-year-old, number one. Number two, he used it in a different way, but was completely applicable. And I was amazed. And so I'm like, buddy, I am acknowledging you, but you just have to go to this different school, because that's where you're going now. And once we had done that once, then he was good with it. But for the first day, it was like, no, we're doing this wrong. Mommy, you don't know what's going on. So yeah, that was one of the things that he was doing. And then I ended up breaking my ankle. So there's a bit of backstory, and if you want the whole awesome epic journey of that particular fun, write and subscribe. Dear goodness, write and I will tell you that awesome story. Subscribe anyway because it's me. Anyway, no, I need to tell you a little bit of backstory. When I was 16, my mom passed away at 36 of galloping leukemia cancer. And in 2016, I turned 36 at the beginning of the year. And on like 3 weeks later, I decided I needed to mark the 20th anniversary of my mother's death by slipping on the ice and breaking my ankle in 3 spots and dislocating it just for good measure. First broken bone ever. And that's what I do. In any case, the reason why I'm telling you this is because this incident had a profound effect on Darrion. Again, we know this because later he told us that he was dreaming about the fact that a doctor came down and told them that I had passed away, and in his words, everyone was hopelessly upset. Yeah. And it was locked in here for about a year before we found out, but it propelled him to do something amazing. So when he was going to school, we didn't put him in school full time. We only put him every other day, and we felt that was important because we really, really, really needed him to be able. Well, what we thought was important was, number one, the world isn't going to change or cater to him because he's autistic. Number two, we wanted him to learn, even without words, how to deal with social interaction. Like go to the bathroom, don't pee in the grass, that sort of thing. And he had an aide, so we were fairly confident he'd be safe in that environment to learn that. So for him, we had him in school, but I was doing stuff. I was doing papers, trying to help him learn on his days off from the stress of that environment to do school paperwork. I wasn't homeschooling, don't call it that, but I was trying to give him a leg up or practice on those days off when he was home. And that led into after I broke my ankle and I was down in the hospital, and oh, by the way, that nice lady from Nashville that came, she came a week after I broke my ankle. So after I'd done that and we got the diagnosis and all of that kind of stuff, I decided I really needed to get him back into doing that. And the nice lady had said, we really need to work on his reading comprehension, not just math. And so that's what I started doing. And so one of the things I found, he would let us read one book, and it was The 3 Billy Goats Gruff. And I found a retelling of that, and on the first page was the story, and then on the second page was the comprehension questions. And the first thing on the questions, the first thing it talked about in the story was folklore. And the first question after reading the whole story was, what does folklore mean? And I was just going to show him the process of filling out this thing when suddenly he grabbed my hand and wrote a story retold. I was shocked. I was completely and totally shocked. I had no idea. We were still working on, may I please have a cookie, Mommy? We were not, I did not know for sure that he could do this sort of thing. And he went out and filled the rest of the questions out. Amazing. Amazing. And the second story that I found was one about a grandma who had fallen and broken her leg and was in the hospital. Read the story, and the question on the second page was simply, what was the story about? And he wrote, essentially, and I'm paraphrasing, grandma fell and broke her leg, went to the hospital, got tape to put on it to make it feel better, and here I am in a big cast and a walker. And it said on there, he goes, just like my mom. And then he wrote, I love her. And I bawled. I bawled because he did something called echolalia again and again and again, just repeated. And even when he said, "I love you very much," we never knew for certain that that was what he meant. And in this case, it was all him. So stay tuned for part 2. It's coming really quick. All right, thanks guys. We'll see you in a minute.